Hey guys, Callum from Nerdemic here, and welcome to my spoiler-free review of Avengers Infinity War. Reviewing this film in this format is very difficult for two reasons. One being that to talk about a lot of the plot elements of this film would technically be counting as a spoiler, which means I can't really go into as much detail of the aspects of this plot as I'd like to, because I believe that this is one of those films that you should definitely go into having as little spoiled for you as possible. And the second reason being, it's technically half a story. The film itself has a clear beginning, middle and end, and a compulsive narrative throughout, but as an overarching storyline, I believe it's kind of suffering from the same feeling as a lot of the franchise two-parters did back in the early 2000s, such as Harry Potter and the Hunger Games series, where you have a compelling story in its first part, which is what we got with Infinity War, but as an overall story, the qualities of this film is really going to be judged a lot more in retrospect. However, that means I have to score this film on its own merits alone, and not what it potentially will be as part of the two-part story. So let's get into what was good about the film. The film was incredibly directed by the Russo brothers. I believe that they're probably some of the best directors working under Marvel Studios at the moment, and I really like the artistic style and direction that they have brought to this picture. Another really important, strong point for the movie that I personally believe is kind of the best part of the film is the interactions between the main characters. Marvel has always had this thing to me that the best parts of its films have never been its actual narrative, but the characters that are going through it. A lot of these characters work really well off each other, especially those that haven't met before. A surprising high point for this film is actually the villain itself, Thanos. Typically there is a running joke in the fandom that Marvel villains, outside the exceptions of Killmonger and Loki, aren't particularly great. But Thanos is probably one of the most relatable villains that we've had in a Marvel or even just a superhero film in quite a long time. Even if you can't sympathise with what he actually is doing, you can understand him as a character and understand that he is this really nice sort of amalgamation of the stereotype of the best villains are those that believe that they are their own hero. And his actions throughout the film completely portray this. A good word I would use to describe this film is definitely the word shocking, as the film definitely relies a lot on its shock value in order to create an emotion with the audience. If you are a fan of the series, I would definitely say that the film puts you on an emotional roller coaster, as you will have moments of the typical fun Marvel comedy to moments that you will be crying at what's happening on the screen. But the biggest problem I think for me with this film is kind of its place within the franchise. It doesn't really connect with the hype that was built for it as being this Avengers movie. It is a two-part story. The cliffhanger ending of this film perfectly sets up Avengers 4 and is a nice sort of interlude between the two, but as its own personal ending, for me, an issue I have with this film is the fact that it is a two-parter. But does it build up to the hype that it has created for itself over the last few years? Well, I can't answer that question right now, because on its own, it needs to be concluded. I just want more. Which I know is exactly what the producers of this film wanted, our reaction to. However, in the long run, I fear this might end up being a negative for the film. Because many times in cinema history, when they divide a story into two-part films, the first part always seems to get the low end of the stick. Just think, when was the last time you watched Deathly Hallows Part 1 on its own without watching Part 2 just afterwards? So overall, Avengers Infinity War is a fantastic film with some great character relationships, a great villain, but is in my opinion knocked back a little bit because of its position inside of its own franchise. So anyway, this has been my spoiler-free review of Avengers Infinity War. So for now, I've been Callum John, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.